What we wanted to create was a sense of pride among the students that they walked in the door, they felt that it was a special place for them to come. If you look still on our glass as you opened, diversity was a big thing. Dr. Cash was big on she didn't care where you came from or who you were. You were just as important as the person beside you. And with that in mind, as we were going along, looking at, okay, how are we going to hire our first faculty? We would kick each other under the table because we were going to hire people persons. The interview was not showing that they were a people person. They probably weren't going to be hired by Dr. Cash and I.
But the idea of opening a new school and being on the ground floor and being a part of that team was very, very enticing. And working with her was a highlight of my career. I remember the day 4 years later when she looked at us and said she was retiring. And I went home and told my wife, I said, this isn't good.
With the teachers that I really love, the thing I love about it is that they talk to me like a fellow human being, not like I'm teaching you this thing, this is exactly what this is, memorize it, and then come back and take a test on it. Instead, it's more like in the classes that I really enjoy, it's like, you know, fellow human beings sharing this interesting thing or idea or picture or piece of music or something with a fellow human being. And that is what I think it should all be. Education is routine. That's what I feel like. It's a lot of, I mean, it's different. You know, every school is different, blah blah blah. Every level is different, but it's like, I mean, it's the same thing. We sit in a classroom and we learn from a teacher for 6 hours of a day, and we, you know, it's a big routine. I hear often people make connections between jails and schools, and there are a lot of connections, but it's not, you know, in any way like most people are like, oh, I hate school, but I like school.
I've always felt like anybody I have met in my life has taught me something, whether positive or negative. But I can glean something positive from almost any conversation with anybody. And I've always tried to kind of carry that philosophy, and it's worked for me so far. They're teachers who always make you think. I walked into a history class in my junior year, and the teacher began the first day with, what is truth? And usually on the first day you go in and you get the instructions about the class and da-da-da-da-da, and he just forgot all that. He looked at us and said, what is truth? And then we began a discussion of that. And all through the year, he challenged us to think about concepts in a way that was not black and white, but in ways that were very, you know, he wanted air interpretation. He taught us to think about things from our own perspectives. You know, that was defining.
I decided I wanted to be a teacher after I started doing these interviews and interviewing some of my teachers and different people, and thinking about my nephew who's almost a year old. I want to have him, because I don't want him to have to go through the same, like, not just high school, but just like the education system. And I'd like to help make it better for kids in the next generation.
If you teach young people, just keep looking in that mirror. Now, don't look in the mirror and every night say, hey, I'm the best and everything's roses. That's not what's going to happen. You've got to look at the mirror and you've got to analyze your day, and you've got to ask the big questions. What could I have done differently that would have had a different type of impact on the situation or the person? And if young people do that, they'll gradually learn from that mirror, because they'll be able to look in the mirror and say, okay, I can do what that person beside me is doing, or I'm not giving that person beside me a chance. So it's kind of a one-on-one, and it's the only place I know of that when you look, there's only one person directly responsible for every decision that you make every day, right or wrong. And that's the person in the mirror.